I was just 9 years old when my parents separated. My mom took me and we moved into a small town in Arkansas. But every summer, I had to spend a few weeks with my dad. That summer, my dad said he had rented a beautiful new farmhouse just outside the city. He picked me up all smiles, telling me, "You're gonna love it, son. It's peaceful, no traffic, no noise, just us and the woods." The house was big, 2 floors, a long gravel driveway. It looked old, but in a charming, old American way. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to disappoint him, but from the first step inside, I felt it, like the house itself was breathing, watching. That night, I was lying in bed upstairs. The windows were open, and the breeze carried in the sound of cicadas. I was half asleep when I heard something. Whispering, coming from downstairs. Not loud, but constant, like 2 people talking. I got up and peeked down the stairs. The living room light was on, and I saw my dad standing there alone. He looked like he was talking to someone, but no one was there. And then I saw her, a woman, standing just behind him, wearing a long black dress. Her head was tilted, unnaturally, like her neck had snapped. She wasn't moving, just staring. I blinked. Gone. She was gone. My dad turned, saw me on the stairs, and smiled. "Couldn't sleep, huh? Come on, let's get you a glass of milk." I didn't say a word. The next few days were off. Lights would flicker, doors creaked on their own. I kept hearing that whispering at night. I told my dad I wanted to leave. He laughed it off. "It's just your imagination. This place is old, yeah, but not haunted." That night, everything changed. I woke up to the sound of something scratching, not at the door, but under my bed. I froze. Then I heard it. A voice. Whispering. "Look under! Look under!" I screamed. My dad rushed in, turned on the lights, held me tight. I told him everything, the woman, the voice, the scratching. He went pale, dead silent. Finally, he said, "You're not crazy. I've seen her too." He said he thought it was his mind playing tricks, that he didn't want to scare me. The next morning, we packed and left. We never went back. That house? Turns out a woman was murdered there, strangled, her neck broken. The husband claimed she just disappeared. They never found her body, but every night since then, I still hear her whisper, "Look under." You think possessions only happen in horror movies, right? Let me tell you about something that happened on November 17th, 2018. That night changed the way I see reality. Forever. It was a cousin's wedding. My best friend was with us. Let's call him Z. A skinny guy, so light we joked he needed stones in his pockets on windy days. He was close to me and my uncle. We all were like brothers. The vibe at the wedding was perfect. Nothing unusual. We ate around 9:30 p.m., laughed, mingled, and then Z disappeared. We figured he went to meet family, but about 10 minutes later, he came back to our table, silent, still, and then, without warning, he collapsed, flat on the ground, unconscious. We freaked out. His father rushed in, told us to take him to hospital, the closest one nearby. The doctors did the usual, checked his vitals, ECG, even gave him a glucose drip. Everything was normal, they said. He's fine, probably low blood sugar. So we brought him back to the wedding, but just as we stepped into the hall, he collapsed again, this time right near the stage. It was embarrassing. Families watching, whispers spreading. His dad looked disturbed and just said, "Take him home." Not the hospital. Home, so we left. It was around 11:30 p.m. I was driving a Wagon R, you know the tall hatchback? My uncle sat beside me. Z was in the back seat. At first he was just staring, but it wasn't a normal stare. It was like he was trying to burn a hole into my skull. And then he growled, but it wasn't his voice. It was something inhuman. Imagine a cat's body making the sound of a dinosaur. That's what it felt like. He said something none of us understood until later. We asked around. It meant, "What can you possibly do to stop me?" His voice was deep, monstrous, bone-shaking. And Z? His real voice was paper-thin,
That wasn't him. My uncle panicked, told me to pull over. He climbed into the back seat beside Z, trying to calm him, but it only made things worse. Z snapped. His eyes rolled. He lunged at my uncle like an animal, with his teeth, not fists, not yelling. He tried to bite his neck, and not just a little nip. He went full-on wild, like he wanted to rip flesh out with his jaws. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a seizure. This wasn't a breakdown. This was something else. So we drove, fast, to my grandmother's house. It was almost 2 a.m. We banged on the grandmother's door, woke her, explained everything in one terrified breath, but before we could even enter, windows started slamming open and shut by themselves. Doors creaked violently. Something was already there, waiting. My grandfather, who practices spiritual healing, came out in his night clothes. We told him what happened. He didn't flinch. He just said, "Take him inside. You both wait outside." We stood outside the house, and what we heard from within still echoes in my nightmares. Screams, growls, cries for help, anger, pain, laughter, all in one. It wasn't Z's voice anymore. It wasn't even human. After nearly an hour, everything went silent. We stepped inside. Z was lying on the floor, awake, but glassy-eyed, confused. He didn't remember a thing. He looked at us and said, "Didn't we just come for a wedding?" No memory of the hospital, no memory of attacking anyone, no memory of that thing speaking through him. Later, my grandfather told us, it wasn't one entity, it was three spirits fighting over the same body. 1 week later, we took Z back to the wedding hall just to see how he'd react. He didn't remember anything, not the food, not the fall, nothing. We even walked the nearby road with him where we thought maybe it all began. But to him, it was just an ordinary day. For us, it was a night that left a scar on reality.
They say, some places aren't haunted by ghosts, but by memories that never left. And if you're thinking about renting a secluded farmhouse for a fun weekend with your friends, think again. Because what happened that night, just outside the city limits of South Texas, wasn't just paranormal, it was personal. A group of 30 friends, college buddies, work pals, lifelong mischief makers, had rented a large, isolated farmhouse deep within a ranch zone. A sprawling property with its own swimming pool, a wide gravel courtyard, a double-story villa, and enough space to disappear in. But isolation comes with a cost. They arrived around 8 p.m., right at sundown. Dinner was served. Laughter filled the air. It was all perfect. Almost too perfect. But they heard something. Faint giggles. Children playing. But there were no children on this property, and these weren't happy laughs. They were repetitive, mechanical, like a broken toy stuck on loop. Peeking through the bushes, they saw small figures darting in and out, barely 2 feet tall. Not toddlers, not human, more like malformed dwarfs. One of the boys, shaken, went to the caretaker. The old man looked at him, expression flat, and said, "Ignore it. We all do. It goes away. Eventually." By 11 p.m., the night was deepening. Music played upstairs. Groups split off, some in the living room, others by the pool. One of the guys, let's call him Tito, was high on adrenaline and weed. Sitting with his friend, he pointed to 2 enormous lizards
crawling on the wall. Man, he laughed. You know what they say about spirits hiding in these things. And then he cursed them. Loudly. Vulgar. Aggressive. Mockery. The room went silent. The lizards stopped and stared. But the boys shrugged it off. Just superstition, right? They began a midnight barbecue near the courtyard. Most were inside the villa, gathered on the ground floor. A few others, still outside, debated about spirits, demons, laughing loudly, taunting the darkness. One guy, Azim, stayed quiet, focused on his food. He didn't like talking about things that watch you from the shadows. He knew better. As dawn approached, the narrator himself, who'd been in the upstairs room, went back to get his phone charger. He climbed the stairs, quiet, empty. As he reached the landing, something in his peripheral vision caught him. In the adjacent room, a wooden love seat, and someone was sitting there. A woman, but not just a woman. Her body was still, unnaturally still. Her hair was long, so long it spilled over the armrest, over the cushion, and touched the ground like a curtain of shadows. She wasn't moving, but she was watching. The narrator didn't stop, didn't turn, just walked downstairs with trembling hands. Minutes later, a friend came out of the downstairs washroom, face pale. He had seen her, exactly as described. He didn't know what the narrator saw. He gave no cues. But the details matched perfectly, from the hair to the vacant eyes, to the silent rage sitting on that couch. That's when it hit them. This place wasn't empty. By 5:45 a.m., light crept across the land. The sky began to shift from black to deep purple. Near the pool behind the showers, one of the guys went in to change. The glass fogged up, water dripped, and then he turned. She was there. Her reflection, but not in the mirror. Behind him. She wasn't standing, she was floating. And this time, her eyes weren't empty. They were glowing, white, burning, alive. They left that farmhouse and never returned. Some said it was just the weed. Some said it was sleep deprivation. But they all described the same woman. Same hair, same silence. So if you ever decide to head to a remote farmhouse with your friends, don't curse what you don't understand. Don't laugh at things older than time. And if you hear children laughing in the bushes, run.
Someone once told me that staying quiet in this world won't let you live.
Raise your voice or be forgotten, they said, and maybe that's why I finally decided to speak. This story, what I'm about to share, isn't fiction. It happened in a theater that no longer exists, in a city that never sleeps. We were preparing for a stage play, a major one. It was called Now the Real Fun Begins. And believe me, back then, live theater had a pulse. People would line up outside the venue, pushing, shouting, begging for tickets. We had a full 90-day schedule planned, 3 months of nightly performances. We needed everything to be perfect, especially the set. The director had a vision, a grand, old-school wedding-style structure, a sort of royal pavilion. But the in-house carpenter couldn't understand the blueprint. It's too complicated, he said. Just let me do something simple. But the director wouldn't compromise. If I'm committing to 90 nights, he said, I want that first gasp from the crowd the second the curtain rises. So, they hired someone from outside. This guy walks in, skilled, focused, quiet. He takes one look at the space and starts sketching, no questions, just work. The director loved it. He hired him on the spot and gave him a 4-day deadline. "Can you build it in time?" "We're a team of 3, the man said. "We'll work day and night if we have to." He got an advance, gathered his team, and started the very next morning. Now here's where things get strange. They worked the entire day without issue, but when the evening came, the team made a decision. "Let's not waste time going home," they said. "We'll stay the night, keep working." So they spoke to the night guard. "Hey man, we'll be working inside all night, just so you know." But the guard looked hesitant. "I lock the front gate and leave," he said. "I don't stay on site. So whatever you need, get it now. Once I'm gone, you're sealed in till morning." "Fair enough." The team leader gave a nod. "All right, you two get to work. I'll go grab food and supplies." Except food wasn't the only thing he went to get. These guys, they were drinkers, heavy drinkers. He came back an hour later with a bag, some booze, some sweets, a couple of glasses. "Let's do the heavy work first," the boss said. "We'll relax later." And so they did. By 2:30 a.m. they had done more than half the set. That's when the leader said, "All right, boys, let's pour 3 glasses, a bottle, laughter, relaxation." But then, a sound. Cats fighting, loud, violent, right above them. "Did you hear that?" one asked. "We didn't see a single cat all day, so what the hell is going on up there?" The noise was coming from the upper balcony, an old wooden gallery that overlooked the stage. The team leader nodded. "Go up and scare them off. We can't work with this racket." One guy grabbed a stick and rushed toward the stairs. But as soon as he reached the door leading to the balcony, he stopped. It was locked from the outside. He tried pushing. Nothing. He pulled. Nothing. He shook the handle. Silence. He returned, out of breath. "Boss, the door's locked. We can't get up there." "Those cats aren't stopping anytime soon." "Forget it," the leader said. "Let it be. Come sit down." They returned to the circle. 3 glasses, 3 men. They took a sip, then the boss smiled and said, "Hey, where are those sweets you brought?" "Right here," the man said. He reached into the same bag he had carried in, the same one he had packed carefully, filled with liquor and desserts. His hand froze. The sweets were gone. The entire box of desserts had vanished. He flipped the bag over. Empty. The sweets had vanished from a lockdown theater with no one else inside. They looked at each other. Their faces changed. What had been exhaustion was now fear. Something wasn't right. One of them suddenly snapped at the others. "Yo, quit messing around. You trying to scare me?" The other guy looked back and said, "Scare you? You were just trying to freak me out." The third guy jumped in. "Man, you're a trippin'. We're all just tired or high or whatever." They laughed it off, but the tension didn't go away. And then it happened, right in front of them. The main entrance to the theater, the big double doors, swung wide open on their own. No wind, no one there, just an empty hallway, and then a white sheet. No, not a folded sheet, a full white sheet floating through the air like it had a mind of its own. It glided right past them, slow, silent, and then vanished into thin air. That was when all hell broke loose. Something invisible attacked them, brutally, violently, slamming them into walls, tossing tools across the floor. They screamed for help, but the hall was empty. No security, no crew, just them and it. By the time it stopped, their faces were swollen, their clothes torn, and their bodies ached like they'd been in a bar fight with the devil himself. They ran, bloodied, terrified, and collapsed on the lawn outside the theater near the ticket booths. Sitting there under the streetlight, they stared at each other, shivering, silent, sober. No more jokes. No more macho crap. Just pain. Finally, one of them whispered, "Who the hell hit us?" No one replied, because none of them knew. The next morning, the security guard showed up and found them sitting outside, dazed and beat to hell. "What the hell happened to you guys?" he asked. They told him what happened, or at least tried to. But how do you explain being attacked by a ghost? The guard said what people always say. "You must have done something to upset something." And when they denied it, he said, "Then come with me." He led them back inside. There, untouched since last night, was the half-empty bottle of liquor, and 3 glasses, still warm. "You think this place is just a job site?" the guard snapped. "This theater has fed families, paid bills. You came here and disrespected it, drinking, laughing, mocking the space. You crossed a line, and something here doesn't like that." But the carpenters had already made up their minds. They packed up and left, refusing double pay, refusing even to come back for the tools they left behind. The director of the play, a guy named Tom, was furious. The premiere was just days away. He had no time and no crew. So when one of the actors said, "I know a kid who could work carpentry," Tom didn't hesitate. "Call him. Get him here." That evening, around 8:30 p.m., the kid showed up. He couldn't have been more than 18 or 19, skinny, barely looked strong enough to lift a toolbox. Tom scoffed. "You brought a kid?" But the young man, confident and calm, said, "Don't judge by how I look. Just show me the blueprint, and I'll rebuild it down to the last nail." Tom led him inside. His name was Henry. Henry saw the half-finished stage, paused, and asked, "Someone already started this, huh?" "Yeah," Tom lied. He had that quiet kind of pride you only see in people who truly love what they do. "Please," he said, "get some sweets. I want to start this job in God's name." Touched, Tom ordered sweets from a nearby 24-hour bakery. When the sweets arrived, Henry made sure to offer them to everyone, the cast, the crew, even the guard. Everyone smiled. It felt like a reset, a new beginning. But the theater hadn't forgotten. Not the disrespect, not the laughter, not the sin. That night, it returned. And it was not pleased. That night, the kid worked alone. The theater was silent, except for the occasional creak of old floorboards and the soft hum of the city outside. He measured, sawed, and drilled with the kind of focus most people lose after an hour. But he wasn't just working. He was building, like he had something to prove or someone to please. It was around 3:15 a.m. when it happened. He was up on the stage, tightening a bolt under the main backdrop, when suddenly, the lights shut off. All of them. The theater went pitch black. And then, click. One light flickered on, way up in the balcony. Another click. Then another light. Then another. Row by row, they turned on. By themselves, until the entire theater was glowing in a soft, golden haze. The kid stood frozen on stage. His hands shook slightly, but he didn't run. He just whispered, "Whatever you are, I came here with respect." And then, silence. Until the voice spoke. Not from the balcony, not from the wings, from beneath the stage. It was a whisper at first, Then it rose, like wind whistling through a grave. You are not like them. He stepped back, heart pounding in his chest. The air turned ice cold. His breath came out in visible clouds. Then came the scream. A woman's scream. So loud it rattled the rafters, echoed through the empty hall, like a banshee had been trapped for centuries. And now it was free. He dropped his tool bag and bolted off the stage. As he reached the hallway leading outside, he heard footsteps behind him. Not one set, multiple, running. But when he turned around, there was nothing, just the darkness chasing him. He burst out of the building and didn't stop until he collapsed in front of the night guard's booth. The old man looked up from his chair, calmly sipping his coffee. "You saw it too, huh?" he said, almost smiling.
Henry couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The guard continued. "This place, it chooses who it punishes and who it protects. You were lucky. It spoke to you." The next morning when Tom arrived, he was shocked. The stage? Finished. Perfectly. Not a single nail out of place. And sitting on the front row seat was Henry's backpack, with a note. "Your set is ready, but I won't be back." Tom never saw Henry again. No one did. Some say he moved away. Others believe the theater let him go. Whatever the truth is, one thing was clear. That stage wasn't just wood and paint. It was alive, and it remembered everything.